There was once a group of anime known as the Big Three, the world's most popular and most important shows to exist in their lifetime. And I'm not talking about this Big Three. Whatever nonsense collection of bullshit you may think is the new Big Three. I'm talking about the real deal here. Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Big Three of merchandising. If you were a kid growing up in the late 90s or early 2000s, you were talking about at least one of these, and if you weren't, you were being left in the dust by all your cooler friends. All three of these franchises have preserved for about 2 decades, far longer than most commercials have any right to. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always pretty much its own thing when it came to what it was pushing, and it went on to disappoint people in its own special ways. But Pokemon and Digimon were perceived as rivals to one another at their peaks. Like Mario and Sonic, like Marvel and DC, Betty and Veronica.
Archie, take me to the beach party. I'm better. No, I am. Take me.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out.
Clearly, this did not continue. Around the mid to late 2000s, Digimon had fallen way behind Pokemon in terms of popularity. People just didn't care about the product as much. And while the fans left, the detractors gained more and more ammunition for calling Digimon a rip-off of Pokemon, and barely anyone was left to defend it, which was never really fair. Like, when you get into it, Digimon, the cartoon and the video games, they were distinct and separate from Pokemon since the beginning. And in very certain and distinct ways, Digimon offered a level of quality that Pokemon never has, and if we're being honest with ourselves, never will. It had something to give the people that supported it, and with recent releases as well as future releases for both the anime and video games, it seems like Digimon's trying to reclaim a bit of that spotlight for itself. So why exactly did Digimon fall off as hard as it did? I don't fucking know. At the very least, I couldn't tell you why it did with things like facts and evidence and research and well thought out theories. But as somebody who was the kid that all this shit was geared towards, I felt that I should give my opinion. Well, not should, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give my opinion on why I feel like Digimon fell off as a franchise back at its apex and why it couldn't reach the heights that it might have been able to, you know? If I told you to describe a Pokemon game in 6 words, and I promised you that I wouldn't judge you on grammar, you'd probably say something like, get Pokemon, beat gyms, become champion. Or, catch Pokemon, complete Pokedex, get bitches. That's because the formula of a goddamn Pokemon game has not changed since the first game came out. It's always been the Pokemon formula, and with very few, sometimes distinct and important, sometimes nonsense and useless changes, that's been the formula for a Pokemon game since day one. You aren't playing a monster-catching RPG in one game, but then struggling to understand a real-time strategy game in the next installment, and then learning zero to death combos in the next installment after that. It's the Pokemon recipe. It built a franchise. If you deviate too much from that formula, it's not the same game anymore. It found what worked, it found what it was decent at, and it stuck with it. It found its identity. That is 100% more than I can say about the Digimon video games. This entire franchise started with a goddamn Tamagotchi spin-off project, then jumped to Monster Pet Raising Simulator, then to a watered-down JRPG attempt, then to multiplayer hack and slash. Like, what are you doing? You're ping-ponging between genres. What is this? The game series is, for the most part, an inconsistent mess. I won't fault the series. I will not fault this series for trying to find its groove through experimentation of its playstyles. But instead of trying to develop what it started out as, to maybe get better at that, bring people in for that, it's just jumping around wildly to different genres, practically alienating everyone who liked the games for what they were before, and ensuring that the only people that are going to buy the next one are buying it not because they want to have fun, but because it's Digimon. In case I haven't been as clear as possible, Digimon games used to fucking suck. And it is only very recently in that series' lifespan that there have been games that are worth your time playing. And even those have issues. But hopefully, they stick with this format, improve on it, and make the series worth playing again. It's not even something that's going to be hard to do. Just keep copying Shin Megami Tensei. Digimon is complicated given the context. When I said the comparisons between Pokemon and Digimon weren't fair, I meant it. But like the appearance of the series on the surface makes it look like it's a lot closer to Pokemon. And that, I think it tricks a lot of people into thinking that it's something it's not. Like, one of the most popular Pokemon's gimmick is the fact that it has multiple evolution paths. Meanwhile, in Digimon, almost every single one of those sons of bitches starts out one way, then he can turn into this guy or this guy, and then these guys turn into maybe this guy or this guy or that guy, but then this guy over here also turns into this guy, and if you're really lucky, he might turn into that guy, and then it all just comes back to the shit. The point is, Digimon is a bit more complex than what people may have initially thought it was, and that might have been a turnoff for people who were expecting something simpler. Digimon sort of goes through a different story with each of its seasons, barring the first two, which are like in the same universe. But Tamers, Frontier, Data Squad, Fusion, they all exist in their own universes, their own worlds, their own things. And I guess maybe kids back in the day who only had a cursory interest in Digimon sort of checked out when the seasons switched over to new ones, because like there were wildly different concepts between seasons. Like Digimon Tamers is way different than Digimon Frontier, which is way different than Digimon Data Squad, which is way different than Fusion. And it's like, whew, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, because even things that sort of do that similar thing like Power Rangers, it's pretty much the same idea between each incarnation of Power Rangers. But with Digimon, it's wildly different between these things. Like the only thing that links any of this is the fact that Digimon may appear in each and every season, and the fact that Leomon will die in each and every season. That's the only connecting factor to any of this shit. And maybe kids felt a bit confused, maybe they just checked out because it was a lot to keep track of. I don't know. Again, this is what Lil Chantrieri was thinking back in the day, maybe. Who knows? Who really knows? Fuck at monsters. Digimon is a decentralized franchise where there's no firm foundation to place your feet before going into all the other things in the series. It's got loads of unexplored concepts and potential stories to tell that could easily be connected into an engaging and highly interactive universe, but this potential is consistently ignored or underdeveloped. That problem has gotten worse over time. The series feels like it has a good aesthetic, but no real substance to speak of. Alright, yeah, that's pretty much why I feel the series took a bit of a downturn in terms of popularity. I'd love to hear your opinions on why Digimon didn't take off as big as you may have thought it could have, or if you disagree and you think that the series is doing fine. I definitely want to hear those mental gymnastics. In the meantime, I'll see you guys maybe next time if you come back. That's it, later.
The Digivolution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know it was coming? Digi